Hello everybody, I am Sanjata Madan Mohan, lecturer in biology. Today we are discussing human physiology chapter, that is digestion and absorption. Now let us define the term digestion. What is meant by digestion? Digestion is the process of breakdown of complex food molecules into simple, soluble, absorbable form. So, once again I define digestion as the process of breakdown of food molecules, complex food molecules into its soluble and absorbable form. Now, what is this food? All of you know, food is required by all organisms for its livelihood. So, food is consisting of two components. One is macromolecules and another is micromolecules. Macromolecules are also called as biomacromolecules. They are carbohydrates, proteins and fats. Micronutrients or micromolecules are vitamins and fibers. Carbohydrates, proteins and fats, that is the macronutrients or macromolecules, are required by the body or required for organisms for its growth and development and repair of tissues. Then micronutrients like vitamins and fibers, vitamins are required for the disease-free life, and micronutrients are required in very less quantity, whereas macronutrients are required in large quantity. Then fibers are not having any nutritive value, still they are required for roughage, normal roughage. Then macromolecules are not absorbed or they cannot be absorbed directly. They are required to be broken down. They are required to be broken down. So, that process we call it as a digestion. So, breakdown of macronutrients, macromolecules to its soluble form, simpler form, absorbable form, that is called as a digestion. Now, carbohydrates, fats and the proteins are to be broken down to their end products and then they can be absorbed. They are first broken down to end products. Now here during this process mechanical digestion as well as chemical digestion takes place. So mechanically the food is digested and chemically also the food is digested. Now another term is there, that is absorption. Absorption is uptake or uptake of all these digested food molecules, macronutrients, that is all nutrients, water and electrolytes from the lumen of the gut or lumen of the small intestine into cell and then to blood. So this is regarding meaning of the term digestion and the absorption. Now next question arises here, where this digestion occurs? Digestion occurs in a digestive system. Digestion occurs in a digestive system. Now human digestive system. Human digestive system, since we are studying human digestion, that is alimentary canal and the associated glands are present in a human digestive system. Now alimentary canal is long tube-like structure. It has two openings. Anteriorly mouth is present and posteriorly anus is present. And this alimentary canal, different parts of an alimentary canal are mouth is leading to buccal cavity or oral cavity, then small pharynx, then esophagus, long tube-like structure. Then next stomach, then small intestine, and then large intestine, and then rectum and anus. Here glands are also associated with the digestive system of human beings. That is, in oral cavity, mainly three pairs of salivary glands are there. Parotid glands, submaxillary and sublingual glands. Three pairs of salivary glands are there, which are associated with the alimentary canal. And apart from that, stomach internally has gastric glands, and then the liver is also associated, and the pancreas is there. And the small intestine internally has some secreting cells, that is glands which secrete the digestive juice. Now let us see one by one all these different parts of alimentary canal. First, mouth. Mouth is leading to buccal cavity or oral cavity. Mouth is leading to buccal cavity or oral cavity. This is a buccal cavity or oral cavity. Now, mouth, that is floor of the mouth, is provided with a muscular tongue. Movable muscular tongue is present, and this tongue, anteriorly it is free and posteriorly it is attached by frenulum to the floor of the buccal cavity. That connection, that region is called as a frenulum, which is connecting the tongue to floral cavity, that is the oral cavity. Then the roof of the buccal cavity is called as a palate, and anterior portion is called as hard palate, and the posterior portion is called as a soft palate. This soft palate descends down, that is as a small tongue-like structure, which is called as uvula. Tongue is also surface of the tongue is provided with the papillae. Surface of the tongue is provided with papillae. Here these papillae, some of them are gustatory in function, or they are provided with taste buds. They are provided with taste buds. Then apart from this, oral cavity is also having the teeth. So the arrangement of teeth in buccal cavity is called as dentition. The mode of arrangement of teeth in oral cavity or mouth is called as dentition. Human dentition is described as thecodont, heterodont, and diphyodont. Thecodont means the teeth are embedded in sockets of jaw. That is why this condition is referred to as a thecodont. The dentine or the teeth are embedded in sockets of jaw. That is why it is referred as a thecodont. Then heterodont. Hetero means different. Dont, dentition. Here in the picture you are observing four different types of teeth: incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. Totally 4 different types of teeth are there. That is why it is referred to as a heterodont. Then one more term is there, that is diphyodont. In human beings, in lifetime of man, the human beings are getting 2 sets of teeth. That is, one is milk teeth or deciduous teeth. Milk teeth or deciduous teeth, and Another type of teeth we are getting in later stage of our life, that is permanent teeth. Permanent teeth. So milk teeth one set, permanent teeth another set. So permanent teeth is also called as adult teeth. Now in milk teeth totally there are 20 number of teeth, whereas in permanent or adult teeth number of teeth will be 32 in number. A dental formula is given to explain this. So already we have discussed different types of teeth. Incisors denoted by I, canines denoted by capital C, and premolars denoted by PM, and the molars denoted by M. Now ICPM. Now here one half, that is one half of the jaw. How many teeth are there? Incisors 2 in number, canines 1 in number, premolars 2 in number, and molars 3 in number. That is 2, 1, 2, 3. This is in case of adult teeth or permanent teeth. Adults or permanent teeth have the permanent teeth, that is 2, 1, 2, 3 will be the dental formula. This is one half of the jaw and 2 half, that is complete jaw. So it will be 32. Now in case of milk teeth or deciduous teeth, why we are calling it as deciduous? Because in later stage of our life they are falling off, and new teeth, new set of teeth we are getting, they are called as permanent teeth. Now in case of milk teeth, the premolars will be absent. In milk teeth premolars will be absent, and one last molar will also be absent. So it is 2, 1, 2. This will be the formula for the milk teeth. So total number of teeth will be 20. So you try to remember which teeth are absent in deciduous teeth or the milk teeth. Next we are proceeding with the next part of alimentary canal, that is pharynx. Pharynx is a small region which is leading to, that is buccal cavity is leading to pharynx. Buccal cavity is leading to pharynx. So this is a pharynx. This region is called as pharynx. Pharynx. And here pharynx is the common passage for both food and air. Pharynx is the common passage for both food and air. Here in case of human beings, so this is pharynx and this is leading to esophagus posteriorly, and anteriorly trachea or the windpipe will be present. So posteriorly esophagus will be present, and anteriorly trachea will be present. Anteriorly trachea or the windpipe will be present. Now this trachea or the windpipe, opening of the windpipe is called as glottis. Opening of windpipe is called as glottis. And this glottis is provided with a flap-like structure called as epiglottis. And whenever we are swallowing the food, the epiglottis will be closing this glottis, or glottis will be closed by epiglottis. This is to avoid entry of food into trachea, food molecules or water droplets, whatever we are swallowing. So entry, whenever we are swallowing, the epiglottis will be closing this glottis, and whatever we are swallowing, that will be entering directly through pharynx into esophagus. Through pharynx it will be entering into esophagus. Next, pharynx is leading to tube-like structure called as esophagus. Esophagus is long tube-like structure. It is connected with the stomach. It is connected to stomach. Stomach is present below diaphragm. This will be diaphragm. All of you know diaphragm is characteristic feature of mammals. Diaphragm, presence of diaphragm is characteristic feature of mammals. Diaphragm is bifurcating the thorax from abdomen. So stomach is situated in the abdominal region, that is below diaphragm. Below diaphragm towards left side of our abdomen. Left side of our abdomen. Stomach is highly dilatable. Stomach is a highly dilatable J-shaped organ where the food is stored temporarily, and here the esophagus, and between esophagus and stomach a sphincter called as a cardiac sphincter or gastroesophageal sphincter is present here in this region. Cardiac sphincter or a gastroesophageal sphincter is present. This sphincter helps in opening and closing of esophagus into the stomach. Stomach is divisible into three parts mainly: body, fundus and pylorus. Sometimes fourth part is also mentioned, pyloric antrum. Pyloric antrum. This region is called as antrum. Now another sphincter is also present between the junction of stomach and small intestine, that or duodenum. So this sphincter is called as pyloric sphincter. This sphincter is called as pyloric sphincter. Now the pyloric sphincter opens into duodenum or a small intestine. Duodenum or a small intestine. That is small intestine is again long tube-like structure, very long tube-like structure, and it is longest part of whole alimentary canal. Alimentary canal actually is 9 meters in length or 30 feet in length, but in living person it is slightly less than that due to muscular tone. Small intestine is again divisible into three parts. Small intestine is again divisible into three parts, that is duodenum, jejunum and ileum. Duodenum, jejunum and ileum are the three different parts of small intestine. Small intestine is the part where all the gastric juices, digestive juices are secreted and complete digestion takes place here in small intestine. Then next, that is duodenum, notch of the duodenum, or duodenum is U-shaped curve, and in between this U-shaped curve pancreas is situated. Pancreas is situated, and duodenum is having the openings for the pancreatic juice or pancreatic duct is opening, and the hepatic duct is also opening, or duct from the liver is also opening in the duodenum region. So duodenum receives all the juices in the which are required for the digestion. Next to small intestine, large intestine is present. Next to small intestine, large intestine is present, and here ileum opens into cecum. Ileum opens into cecum. So large intestine is again divided into three parts: cecum, colon, and rectum. Three parts are there in a large intestine. So ileum opens into cecum. Cecum is blind structure, blind sac-like structure. This region is the cecum, and in between the junction between ileum and cecum, here vermiform appendix is present. What is present in between the junction of ileum and cecum? Vermiform appendix, worm-like or finger-like projection. Appendix is present. Appendix is present at the junction between ileum and cecum. And one more thing, between ileum and cecum, a sphincter is present, ileocecal valve. It is called as ileocecal valve. Ileocecal valve is present, or it is guarding this ileum, opening of ileum into cecum. Cecum is provided with the symbiotic organisms, microorganisms help in the digestion process, that is digestion of fiber, breakdown of fiber, etc. And one more thing regarding vermiform appendix. Appendix is a vestigial organ in case of human beings. Appendix is a vestigial organ in case of human beings. Then cecum is leading to colon. Cecum is leading to colon. Colon is again having three different parts: ascending colon, transverse colon, and descending colon. Three parts are identified in colon: ascending colon, then transverse colon, and descending colon. Descending colon leads to rectum. Here this region is called as sigmoid colon. This region is called as sigmoid colon. And the diameter of large intestine is larger than that of small intestine. Small intestine is having lesser diameter compared to large intestine. Then the rectum is opening outside through anus. Opening outside through anus. The whole alimentary canal or gut is made up of 4 tunics or 4 layers of tissues. Outermost layer is called as serosa. Second layer is called as muscularis. Third layer is called as submucosa. And the innermost layer is called as mucosa, and this is the lumen of gut. This is the lumen of gut. Now this serosa is made up of epithelial tissue. Serosa is made up of epithelial tissue, and this is called as mesothelium. It is covering of the whole alimentary canal or gut. Next to it, layer of muscles is present, which is called as muscularis. This layer of muscles, that is having 2 different types of muscles here. Inner circular muscles are present and outer longitudinal muscles are present. In muscularis, 2 types of muscles are there. Arrangement is different here. Outer longitudinal muscles are present and inner circular muscles are present. These muscles are playing very important role in movement of gut. These are playing very important function, that is movement of gut. Food movement, that is 2 types of movements are seen in the alimentary canal. One is peristaltic movement and another is the segmentation movement. One is peristaltic movement and the another is a segmentation movement. So those two movements are brought about by this these two different types of muscles present in the muscularis. Then next to it, submucosa is present. Next to it, submucosa is present. That is, submucosa is made up of loose connective tissue consisting of or composed of blood vessels, then lymph vessels and nerve endings, etc. Then innermost layer is called as a mucosa. Innermost layer is a mucosa. Mucosa is again epithelium. Mucosa is again epithelial tissue. That is, mucosa is highly folded. Mucosa is highly folded. One more thing regarding these four layers. The whole alimentary canal is provided with all these four layers, but the different parts of the alimentary canal, depending on the function, it is slightly modifying. It is slightly modifying. So, mucosa in case of stomach. Mucosa inside the stomach. Here, stomach is provided with internally it is highly folded, and this is help in increase in that is, since it is dilatable. It is dilatable, so helps in increasing the structure, or when it is full, it will be bulging because of presence of this mucosa. And these foldings are called as foldings present in mucosa. They are called as rugae. These foldings in stomach, foldings of mucosa are called as rugae in case of stomach. Then the small intestine is also provided with the finger-like projections like this. Mucosa is highly folded. Mucosa is highly folded. You can see in the picture, in the diagram, you can see clearly the inner lining or the mucous membrane is highly folded. It is highly folded, forming finger-like projections called as villi. Finger-like projections called as villi. And each villus is provided with a lacteal, that is a lymph vessel, and capillaries, arteries are present. Capillaries, arteries are all present, and in between villus, that is, crypts are present, that is crypts of Lieberkühn, which are secreting the juice, that is intestinal juice. Veins are also present here. So this is internal anatomy, small that is section of small intestine. So just now I told you, depending on the region where the region in alimentary canal, the mucous membrane is highly folded. That is in stomach, the folds are called as, inner foldings are called as rugae, and in small intestine they are called as villi. And one more thing regarding villi, number of villi are maximum in jejunum region. Small intestine, three parts we have discussed: duodenum, jejunum and ileum. So jejunum region, the inner, middle portion, middle part of the small intestine, it is having maximum villi. Number of villi present in jejunum will be maximum. Then one more thing regarding this villus, that is these villi, again they are having again they are folding like this, forming that is micro projections, forming brush border, So again these are the folds of the mucous membrane. Again this villi, each villus is again folding, forming a brush border. Micro projections are there, and this is that is actually they are called as plicae. Let it be. So let us just remember, this is a brush border. And what is use of, or what is function of all these villi and microvilli, whatever? So this is to increase the area of absorption. This is to increase the area of absorption. That is, maximum absorption can take place because of presence of microvilli and villi. Then one more thing regarding regarding duodenum, that is in duodenum part, the mucous submucosa, duodenum part, that is submucosa. Just now we have discussed regarding the different layers, submucosa region. Here duodenal glands are present. In submucosa of duodenum, duodenal glands are present, which are secretory in function, So with this we are completing the alimentary canal. Now we are proceeding with the accessory ducts, accessory glands which are associated with the digestive system, Now first we have spoken about the salivary glands. So salivary glands are opening into buccal cavity. That is here. Salivary glands, 3 pairs of salivary glands are there. Parotid glands, submaxillary and sublingual glands. 3 pairs of salivary glands are there, which are opening into oral cavity or a buccal cavity. Now salivary glands are secreting saliva. The collective juice is called as a saliva. So these parotid glands are present here near the ear. Parotid glands are present, a pair of parotid glands, and they are opening on the upper jaw, that is upper surface of the oral cavity. Then next the submaxillary, or they are also called as submandibular glands, submaxillary or submandibular glands. These are opening into the lower region, or that is in the lower portion of the buccal cavity. Then sublingual, they are present below the tongue. And they are also opening into oral cavity, but outside the jaw. So collective juice of salivary glands is called as saliva, and saliva helps in digestion of food. Saliva is composed of salivary amylase. Salivary amylase is present, which is a digestive enzyme, carbohydrate digesting enzyme, which is present in saliva. Next, apart from this, one more enzyme is also present, lingual lipase. One more enzyme is also present, lingual lipase in saliva, but lingual lipase not functioning. We are discussing this point later on. Next, in esophagus, no digestive enzymes are secreted. It is just a food passage. Food is passing down into stomach. So stomach, gastric glands are there. Which are secreting the gastric juice. Gastric glands are secreting gastric juice. Gastric juice is composed of pepsin and renin. 2 enzymes are there, proteolytic enzymes. These two are the proteolytic enzymes. And one more enzyme is also present, that is gastric lipase. Next, the other glands which are associated with the digestive system. That is liver and pancreas. Liver and pancreas. Let us discuss one by one. Let us discuss one by one. Liver is the largest organ. Liver is the largest organ situated here. Situated here. So, largest organ situated in abdominal region below diaphragm towards right side of our body, and it is weighing about 1.2 to 1.5 kg. So 1.2 to 1.5 kg. Then next, liver is that is structural and functional units of liver are called as hepatic lobules. Structural and functional units of liver are called as hepatic lobules. Hepatic lobules. So these hepatic lobules are provided with hepatocytes or liver cells. They are arranged in the form of a cord. They are arranged in the form of a cord, hepatic cord. And each hepatic lobule is covered by Glissen's capsule. Each hepatic lobule is covered by Glissen's capsule. A connective tissue covering is present, that is called as Glissen's capsule. And these are the hepatocytes. These are the hepatocytes arranged in the form of a cord-like structure. This is called as hepatic cord. This is called as a hepatic cord. Now, the collective secretion of the liver is called as a bile juice. Collective secretion of liver is called as bile juice. Bile juice doesn't consist of composed of any digestive enzyme. It is not having any digestive enzyme, but still very important in the process of fat digestion. Very important in the process of fat digestion. And here the common that is hepatic duct is present, which is connecting liver, and the one more bag-like structure is also present here. This is called as the gallbladder. The bile juice is secreted in the liver and it is stored in the gallbladder. So bile juice is produced in liver and it is stored temporarily in gallbladder. So liver, that is from liver, hepatic duct is arising, and the gallbladder, the duct from gallbladder is called as cystic duct. This is called as cystic duct, and these two ducts are joining together, and this is called as common bile duct. So the duct of gallbladder is called as cystic duct. This is the cystic duct, and the duct from liver is called as hepatic duct, and these two are joining together to form common bile duct. These two are joining together to form a common bile duct. Next we are going to discuss pancreas. Pancreas is a compound gland. It is exocrine as well as endocrine in function. It is exocrine as well as endocrine gland. It is having both functions, that is exocrine and endocrine. Exocrine part secretes enzymes. Exocrine part secretes enzymes, and endocrine part secretes the hormones. Two very important hormones, insulin and glucagon. Two very important hormones, insulin and glucagon. That is, endocrine part secretes, endocrine part releases insulin and glucagon, whereas exocrine part secretes enzymes. Here, enzymes of pancreas, enzymes of pancreas pancreatic amylase. Pancreatic amylase. Then next trypsin, chymotrypsin, and carboxypeptidase, and carboxypeptidase. So these are the enzymes. Even nucleases are also secreted by exocrine part of pancreas. So pancreatic amylase, then trypsin, chymotrypsin and carboxypeptidase, and the nucleases, and one more that is stepsin, pancreatic lipase or stepsin, pancreatic lipase or stepsin, pancreatic lipase or stepsin. So these are all the enzymes secreted by the pancreas. So what is their function and on which food items they are acting, let us see later on. Here pancreas is also provided with ducts. This is the pancreatic duct, or it is also called as duct of Wirsung. Then another pancreatic accessory duct is also present, that is called as, it is not shown in the picture, that is called as duct of Santorini. And pancreatic duct and this bile duct both together join to form a common duct called as pancreohepatic duct or hepatopancreatic duct. Hepatopancreatic duct, this is common hepatopancreatic duct, and this hepatopancreatic duct is opening into the duodenum region. It is opening into duodenum region, and the region where the hepatopancreatic duct opens, this is called as the ampulla of Vater. This is called as ampulla of Vater. And this ampulla of Vater or the hepatopancreatic duct is guarded by sphincter of Oddi. It is guarded by sphincter of Oddi. So pancreas is having main pancreatic duct, then the pancreatic duct is opening into the duodenum region. Before opening, it joins with common bile duct to form a hepatopancreatic duct, and this hepatopancreatic duct is guarded by sphincter of Oddi, and the opening is called as a ampulla of Vater, which is present in the duodenum region. So this is regarding the ducts that is associated with the alimentary canal or the digestive system. Next is small intestine. Inner lining of small intestine is also provided with some glands. Digestive glands are there which are secreting enzymes. Just now while discussing the previous part, we have discussed that duodenal glands are there. Duodenal glands are there, and as well as crypts of Lieberkühn. Two types of glands are there, crypts of Lieberkühn. So these two glands are secreting the juice called as succus entericus. It is called as succus entericus or intestinal juice. Succus entericus or intestinal juice. This collective secretion is called as intestinal juice or succus entericus. It is also having some enzymes. They are the enterokinase, then maltase, sucrase, lactase. Maltase, sucrase and lactase. These are the enzymes, and apart from this dipeptides and dipeptidases and tripeptidases are also present. Dipeptidases and tripeptidases. Tripeptidases are also present in the Succintricus or intestinal juice. Enterokinase is not digestive in function. This is an activator. This is an activator. So this is regarding the small intestine or the intestinal juice.